Hi and welcome to Beatle Dave's Beatles channel. Today's video I'm going to be showing the 2009 stereo CD box set, so please come and join me. So hello and welcome again to Beatle Dave's Beatles channel. Hope I find all you fab people doing really well out there, and thank you so much for joining me again today on the channel. So today's video then, I'm going to be showing the Beatles in Stereo CD box set from 2009, which was obviously released the same day as the Beatles in Mono CD box set, which is what I showed a wee while back on the channel. Now interestingly though is the amount of times I get asked, Beatle Dave, do you prefer the Beatles in mono or stereo? Now, initially I actually heard all the Beatles albums in stereo in the early 1980s, and little did I know about the differences in many of the mono and the stereo mixes. So coincidentally around this time, I bought a book called The Beatles Album File and Complete Discography by Jeff Russell. And within this book actually, there is a section and it actually points out the differences, the many differences between mono and stereo versions. And there's quite a few Beatles tracks actually that are different mono and stereo wise. So actually, with this book, it actually got me wondering, how can I get hold of these mono versions? Because obviously at the time I just had the stereo versions. So as luck would have it, in 1982, EMI actually reissued 10 of these Beatles albums in mono, as per the original mixes, and even using a lot of the original 1960s lacquers. So I went and brought the 10 recently reissued mono LPs in around 1982 from HMV Oxford Street, and boy was I in for an absolutely fantastic listening experience. Now, after obviously being familiar with the stereo versions, it really was like I was hearing these albums for the very first time again. I mean, these reissues are just so great sounding, and the actual magical mono mixes of albums like Revolver, Sgt Pepper and the White Album, they just totally blew me away. It was just absolutely incredible. But I've digressed somewhat here, and the question is, do I prefer the Beatles in mono or the Beatles in stereo? Well, what I'm going to do then, I'm going to go through and answer just album by album, briefly quoting each album and stating my preference. So starting then with Please Please Me and also with the Beatles, there's no doubt definitely the mono mixes. They're a lot more dynamic to me, although the stereo it's great to hear with the separation of the vocals and the instruments. They're just much more sonically pleasing in mono. A Hard Day's Night and Beatles for Sal, I actually prefer the stereo mixes on these two albums, especially Beatles for Sal, mainly because it's a much more quieter album. It just sounds so much more pleasing in stereo. Help then, well, both mixes, they're just not great, are they? They're really muddy sounding and really just not sounding good. But I think in this particular instance, I'm just going to have to go with the stereo for Help. Rubber Soul, Revolver and Sgt Pepper, without any doubt, it's the mono mixes all the way for me. I mean, all that time that they spent creating the mono mixes for these fabulous albums, I mean, it clearly shows. Really fantastic. So next then, I'm going to include the Magical Mystery Tour album simply because they're actually in both the mono and stereo CD box sets. And along with the White Album, I actually completely love both the stereo and the mono mixes of both of these albums. I mean, they certainly got a grip with the stereo mixing by this point, but I also feel equally the mono mixes are just as fabulous. So those are actually my choices, but it's a very personal thing between the mono and stereo mixes, but at least we've got the choice in the fantastic Beatles core catalogue. So anyway, we're going to be coming to that CD box set very, very soon, but before then, it's time for I Call Your Name. So yes, it's on to those fabulous old shout-outs, and it's a great big Beatle Dave hello to Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Pete Terry, how you doing Pete? John Mates, The Skipsters, Rob Britton, Jason's Adventures, Octawave Official from the USA, how you doing? Labba Jadaman, Peekabellor, Rob Brook, Victor Antonio Casado Fernandez, Bottle Blonde Lady and Jean Volek. And that's a massive hi to all of you fantastic Beatle people from yours truly, Beatle Dave. So okay then, now it's time to have a look at the Beatles Stereo CD box set from 2009. So let's take a look. So we're going to take a good look then at the Beatles Stereo CD box set, released on the 9th of September 2009. So I'm just going to take, I've actually managed to keep the shrink wrap on the actual box set itself, so we can pull that off. Obviously, we'll put that to one side for the moment. But obviously though, we've got the original outer sleeve, if you like, which has got the logos and stuff on the sides. But on the back, we have the original studio recordings, 217 songs remastered for superior sound, and of course deluxe packaging, bonus videos, and of course this set contains all the 13 original stereo albums digitally remastered in stereo, with all the pictures of the albums there, and it's got along with past masters, and of course the mini documentaries DVD, and of course all the mini documentaries are on each individual CD as well. So let's take that particular section out of the way, and of course then we've got the original box. Of course you've got the full apple on that side, and on the back the halved apple, with the logos on each of the sides, and of course it's a hinged box. I'm guessing a lot of you guys have probably got this box set anyway. There's plenty of Chinese bootlegs out there, or counterfeit copies as you call them, which aren't so good, and they're obviously a lot more inferior, but you can tell the difference. These are really well made, and they've got to be to carry the amount of CDs that are in the box sets. So let's take a look at the CDs then. So starting of course with the Beatles album Please Please Me, released on the 22nd of March 1963, and in stereo released a few weeks later on the 26th of April 1963. So starting with of course Please Please Me then. It's a great looking sleeve. I mean, these really are well produced. You've got to say they really are nice looking. Of course you've got all the tracks there, all the guys and the instruments, what they played on the album. And of course you've got the mini documentary on each of the discs, as well as a disc at the end, a bonus disc DVD with all of them on, which is quite convenient. But obviously the documentaries, they're not too long, only like several minutes long or something. Really well packaged these are, they're really fantastic looking. Got a little booklet of course, great quality, lovely and glossy, beautiful photos. Just going to flick through a few of these pages. So many great images of the guys at the cavern, and some waste ground there at the cavern again. One of my favourite early photos of the guys there. Really brilliant photo. I love that photo. But yeah, you got all the fantastic quality which you'd expect. Any products Beatles wise, you've got to expect the best quality. Some alternate shots there at Manchester Square. Another one. Another great shot of the guys. And of course the actual disc. I mean, a replica, stereo gold, maybe will be as close as I'm going to get. But it certainly looks a great looking disc this, and it does sound pretty darn good. On the 22nd of November 1963, and yes of course it's with the Beatles. So another great looking sleeve of course, taken at the Palace Court Hotel in Bournemouth, Westover Road, which is now a Premier Inn. Fantastic looking shot there in a corridor there. Brilliant stuff. And there's your spine. And of course, once again, you've got all the tracks there. And of course, that mini documentary and all the logos and stuff. Great looking booklet. And then we got, of course, a brilliant looking shot. I think that might be Manchester Square, I believe. Certainly looks like it there. 20 Manchester Square, sadly gone. Once again, these great looking booklets. You've got so many fantastic photos and information. You couldn't wish for any more. It's just so wonderfully produced. Another great photo in the cavern there. The guys in London. Down on the promenade, perhaps somewhere. So many great shots of the guys. Really nice. And there's the back. And of course, don't forget the disc, which is of course now the black and yellow Parlophone disc, with the great big stereo indicator there at the top. So on to the fabulous A Hard Day's Night soundtrack then. This was released in the UK on the 10th of July 1964. As I said, one of my favourite albums in stereo, the early ones that is. Quite a good mix I feel. But it is just a great album. It's a very John Lennon album, this one. Really love some of the tracks on this album, especially the second side. So many good songs. You know, they were really writing just fabulously at the time. Another great shot of the guys. Let's take a look at that little booklet once again. Many great photos. As most of these booklets, they've all got some super photos in. Wonderful quality. Guys recording, and so much happening to them in 1964. Must have been an absolutely incredible year. So many things going on. But, you know, they didn't falter. They just carried on and on and on. George of his newly acquired 12-string Rickenbacker, of course. Just so photogenic, these guys. Messing around on the set of A Hard Day's Night. Right, let's take a look at the disc, of course. Once again, the black and yellow parlophone. The font looks very similar to what they would have used at the time, obviously in some of the original albums, but great stuff. Slightly smaller stereo indicator on this one, of course. So on to the next one then, which is, of course, Beatles for Sale, released on the 4th of December 1964. Well, as I previously said, one of my favourite stereo mixes, certainly against the mono mix of Beatles for Sale. Really do like that mix. We've got black on the spine there, Baby's in Black. And on the back, all the tracks. Great album. And the mini documentary. More great shots. Alternate shot of the guys there. Really nice looking photo. Take a quick look at that booklet then. So it replicates the front, and of course the back of the, what would have been a gatefold sleeve, of course. Guys in Washington. And many more studio shots there of the guys recording the album. That's the Twickenham foyer there on the right hand side. Guys with their umbrellas. That's a great shot in Abbey Road number 2, Studio 2. Brilliant stuff. There we go. Take a look at that disc again. Once again, the stereo indicator at the top with all the tracks listed. That black and yellow parlophone. So on to Help now, the soundtrack for the Help film. And of course this was released on the 6th of August 1965. So I believe the stereo mix on this particular CD is George Martin's slightly altered mix. But you know, if you want the original stereo mix, you'll have to go to the mono CD, and of course it's included on there. Nevertheless, you've got the guys trying to spell out Help there, which is obviously completely wrong. And there's the spine. And then we got the back of the disc, back of the CD packaging. Great shot there in Austria. Another great shot of the guys in Bahamas, and obviously a lot warmer than Austria. So take a look at the actual booklet then. Once again, you got the album front. There, we've got many shots from the film. Obviously the Beatles themselves didn't particularly like the film, but I still quite like Help. There's Ringo painted red there in the sea. Brilliant. Good shot of John there and the boys. And of course then, once again, the black and yellow parlophone stereo disc. So on to the magnificent Rubber Soul album then, which was released on the 3rd of December 1965. Just love this cover, one of my favourite Beatles covers of all time. And of course this album itself, absolutely wonderful album. I think I prefer obviously in mono, this particular mix, but we're probably going to get a deluxe version this year, hopefully. And there's the spine. This time we got the replication of the back of the album, pretty much. Not completely, but it's pretty close. Guys there recording a promo for I Feel Fine. Let's take a look at the booklet once again. Wonderful photo of the guys, elongated. There's all the tracks. There's John, Paul, all the guys recording the TV show. Got George there, and that Ringo. And collectively, great stuff. Once again, the stereo disc with a nice big stereo indicator this time. So on to Revolver then, which was released on the 5th of August 1966. So artwork by Klaus Voormann, of course, Great stuff, great artwork there. Love this album. The mono mix all the way for me. And this one really does replicate front and back, as it should, rightly so. And a Chiswick house, and of course, around about the time of the butcher shots there on the right. And then we got the booklet. Let's go through that quickly. Beatles at Abbey Road there, inside Abbey Road. Studio 3. Great picture of George. Candid shot there. And Ringo there. Such a great album, you know, Revolver, Rubber Soul, just both wonderful albums. And the guys again. Brilliant stuff, great shot. Take a look at that disc. Slightly smaller stereo indicator this time again. But yeah, great stuff. So on to the magnum opus that is then Sgt Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, released on the 1st of June 1967, Rush released on the 26th of May, just under a week earlier actually. But what a piece of artwork, just magnificent. I mean, what a cover, you know, just incredible. It just blew everybody away, no doubt, at the time. And it still does to this day, it still blows people away. It's such a great album, so many fantastic tracks, you know, just wonderful stuff. And there's obviously what would have been the original gatefold. Well, let's take a look at what is the booklet. Real good quality, this one. It feels even glossier, this one. Some great shots. Sgt Pepper drum. Something from Peter Blake there, who helped to design the album sleeve and put it all together, of course. There's the Sgt Pepper cutouts. That gatefold again. Who's Who. And of course, all the lyrics to all the songs. Great stuff. Some fantastic shots in here. Just love this album. Once again, it's that mono mix for me. I don't mind the stereo version, but it just doesn't have quite as much put into it as the mono did. But there's the disc. So on to the Magical Mystery Tour album then, which was first released in the USA on the 27th of November 1967 and released in the UK as a mono and a stereo EP on the 8th of December. Once again, fabulous artwork. Love this album. Of course, the best thing Capitol Records ever did for the Beatles in America. We've got a fantastic album. There's the spine. And of course, there's the reverse. Of course, you've got those singles of Penny Lane and All You Need Is Love with their respective sides. Just a great album, you know. I just love this mix as well. Both the mono and stereo mixes are fabulous for me. There's the booklet. Have a little scan through that. Pretty much replicates the actual booklet you would have got with the album and the EPs. Exactly. Right the way through. Of course, you've got that weird looking skeleton picture there, if you can make that out, from the sort of Paul is dead theory. There's plenty of those clues everywhere, scattered through these albums. Supposed to be blood on Paul's shoes there as well. Paul barefoot again. So many different clues there. It's really quite incredible, really. And John shoveling spaghetti there. And then your mother should know. There's all the lyrics of the songs then. And a little bit more information right at the back. Wonderful stuff. Absolutely love this album. And there we are. We got the Capitol disc this time. And rightly, you know, it should be deservedly, you know, included in the catalogue. Absolutely brilliant album. So on to probably my Beatles' favourite album then, which is the White Album, released on the 22nd November 1968. Still managed to keep the shrink on the outer booklet of this, so we're just going to give it a shake. So there's the slip case there with all the tracks. Alternate photos of the guys there. put that over there. And of course the actual white album itself then, with the spine, tracks on the reverse, and of course a lot more of a fold out this particular one. So we got, I think we got, where's that booklet? I think we got a booklet in there, which we'll just take a look at firstly. And of course we've got all the posters and things, everything you would expect from the white album. Just love this album. It's just so diverse in styles, and you know, the songwriting, it was just so magnificent to me, just what they were writing in India. So many wonderful songs in just one double album. So glad it wasn't just one single album. I really, you know, loved the white album. Really difficult to get it down to a single album, I think. So many good songs. There's the guys in the hollyhocks there. There's St Pancras Churchyard. There we go, that's the booklet. And of course then we've got what you would expect. There's the other guys as well. Try and pull all these out. So there's of course a mini poster. Glossy one this time, as opposed to a matte finish in the originals. There we go, and of course replicated perfectly. Miniaturized lyric sheet. Okay, and of course you've got the 4 photos itself within the actual cover, like that. And then of course we've got the actual discs in this side with the full apple there, disc 1, and of course where Ringo is, the halved apple. Great mix and a great album. So on to the Yellow Submarine album then, which was released in the UK on the 17th of January 1969. Once again, another great looking sleeve. And I know there's lots of people, you know, that don't really like this album, but I love the score, love the George Martin score. It's absolutely wonderful. And of course it sounds wonderful in stereo. Really great. There's all the tracks there with the cartoon animated guys from Sgt Pepper, and of course the Beatles there. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And the film as well, you know, it's just a wonderful film. So great for kids growing up. It's just full of imagination. And once again, wonderful little booklet with all the characters and animations from the film. Brilliant stuff. Sgt Pepper's Band. Beatles alter egos, of course. Some great shots from the film. Wonderful stuff. And of course the full stereo Apple disc to end with. Great stuff. So on to technically then, what is the last recorded album by the Beatles, released on the 26th of September 1969. Great shot of the guys there. Looks like they're leaving Abbey Road, of course, for the last time. They gave as much as they possibly could in the years they were together. I mean, what more could they give? What a splendid album, you know, just wonderful album. Great artwork once again. Some of the last shots of the guys together at Tittenhurst Park, of course. And there we are, that's the little booklet. Once again at Tittenhurst Park there, John's place. Some great shots. Not too many pages in this particular booklet, but not as many as some of the other ones, but there's enough good shots in here. And that's the booklet then. So here's the disc with the full Apple label, and of course there only ever was a stereo mix. I mean, there's mono reel-to-reel tapes, of course, but there was never a proper mono mix of Abbey Road, just the stereo. So we're coming towards the end now, guys, and we're on to Let It Be. Of course, this was released in the UK on the 8th of May 1970. Well over a year then after it was recorded. Quite incredible. And I think by that point, I think they were just completely fed up with it. I think they just wanted it out and got rid of, really. It just it's a real shame, you know, it ended on this particular note. But I always believe they should have just put the rooftop on one side and the other tracks on the other side. It would have been so much better. Or just put the Glyn Johns mix out, you know, that's what they should have done at the time. But they ummed and ahed, and time went on. And by that point, of course, Abbey Road, they were in the middle of Abbey Road. But that's just what it is. That's just what happened. Oh, you got some incredible shots of the guys here, of course, on the roof. So for the last time. Great shot of George. And you've got John. They're all smiling, you know, they're all smiling. I mean, the Get Back documentary reveals a lot more than actually history made us think. Wonderful stuff. Let's get that disc. And there we go. They've got the whole Let It Be album in stereo there. Great stuff. So on to a double disc then of Past Masters, which was originally released in the UK on the 7th of March 1988. So, great double disc this one. Got some really good tracks. Past Masters, disc 1 and disc 2. There's the spine. And of course this one folds out again, like the tri-fold out. Really glossy. So let's just have a little flick through this then. Some great shots of the guys once again in Abbey Road. On a TV programme. Plenty of information here. Of course, these are all stereo tracks of singles and stuff that didn't make albums. John doing his driving test. That's the guys in Chiswick House. Hey Jude, David Frost Show. The guys in April 1969 there with John's roller. And the final few shots, and then we've gone back to the early days. So let's take a look at the discs. So we've got a Parlophone one there, disc 1. And of course, disc 2 being an Apple. So the final disc then is actually a DVD with all the mini documentaries on the disc itself. What a great inclusion. There we go, the Beatles, the mini documentaries with all the albums there. Please Please Me, With the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, Beatles for Sale, Help, Rubber Soul, Revolver, Sgt Pepper's, Magical Mystery Tour, The White Album, Yellow Submarine, Let It Be, and of course they've got Abbey Road at the end, so that, you know, that really is how it should be. And of course, there's the gatefold sleeve there. And of course inside, the actual DVD. This time, we got a very, very red Apple. Still a great set though, this one. It's certainly, if you haven't got it, it's definitely worth having. Well, that's it today, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed seeing the fabulous stereo box set from 2009. And please don't forget, as always, any comments or communication I get from any of you Beatle people about today's video or any other video I've got on the channel, and there's plenty of them on there, I will of course always come back to you just as soon as I can. So on the next video then, I'm going to be showing an absolutely incredible bunch of Beatles and related booty that I've managed to obtain over the last few months. Also, I'm going to be including what I believe to be the rarest Ringo Starr item that was ever available to purchase in the UK. That's got you thinking. So please make sure you're here on the next video, same Beatles time, same Beatles channel. Anyway, as always, if you enjoy what I'm doing, why not give us a like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos. This is Beatle Dave signing off. Beatle Dave's Beatles channel.